and welcome to Art Alive. This week we're at the Pyramid in Warrington and we're going to take a look at My Subject is War, a multidisciplinary visual art exhibition that focuses on the role of Warrington during the First World War. Emma Brown is the artist behind the project, and tell me how it all started. Emma, we're here for My Subject is War, your exhibition. Can you tell us how did it start in the first place?
It started last year with a window mural that I did downstairs in this building, which was also for World War I, the sort of centenary celebration. And because it was such a big success, Culture Warrington and Warrington Borough Council commissioned me to do another window around the town centre, and then I applied for funding from Arts Council England, which was successful, and with that bigger pot of money I ended up being able to do an exhibition and another window, so it kind of expanded the project from there.
Brilliant. And how did you work on it?
I suppose so, yeah, because the whole kind of most of the project has been drawing on windows, which was a new thing for me last year, but it worked really well and I really enjoyed doing it. I liked the fact that people could see the sort of process behind the artwork and see it kind of come into life and not just it suddenly appears. And then with the animation, that was just something that I really wanted to sort of follow up. I did a bit at university, but since then I've not really had a lot of time or money or resources to do that, so it was a good opportunity to kind of push for something there.
The glass drawing, did you do that before?
No, I'd never done it before last year, and then I volunteered to do it downstairs. It's quite a big space, and I just kind of went for it. I didn't really plan it either. I just turned up with some photographs from the war and just went for it, and it really worked out.
What's different with drawing on the paper?
It's a lot, I don't know, in some ways it's harder because you're obviously standing upright and you get sore back and things, and so with the pens on the glass you can smudge it and things like that, but in some ways when you're drawing on paper, like when I was drawing the ones behind, it's really easy to keep rubbing out and perfecting, whereas on the glass you have to kind of go with your first sort of drawing, and it's quite nice in a way.
Okay, and so there are different kind of mediums here. There's drawings, and behind there's also kind of photographs. It's not
Yeah, the photographs, they're not actually by me. They're by a man called Tony Culpin. That's from the vinyl and the window mural work that I've done around the town centre. It's just to sort of document that a little bit, just to kind of draw everything together in the exhibition.
And this animation that we see, what is it about exactly? I mean, how did you work on it?
It is a made-up story, but it's based on sort of snippets from the research that I've done about Warrington in World War I. So some of the stories are real, like there was a private who got married and then went straight off to war immediately, like hours later. And it's sort of celebrating like some of the industry from around the town. So there's factual things in it, but I kind of made up the story myself just to give it a bit more of a narrative. So there's one soldier that goes through the whole sort of progress of the war.
And how did you work? Did you work a lot with the archives or with local people as well to do research?
It's a bit of both. The archives at Warrington Museum and like the staff there, they were really helpful, and they helped me sort of gather a lot of photographs and a lot of sort of newspaper stories from the local newspaper. And then I did 3 workshops with local residents as well, just to get a bit of input from them about what kind of thing they'd like to see in the work.
And what was it? What did they want to see?
It was a bit of a mix. One was a local kind of art group, Creative Remedies art group. So we looked a lot of propaganda. So they liked the posters, and we sort of talked about where they would be around the town and how that would have an impact on people. I worked with a little school class from a primary school, and they kind of tried on a lot of costumes and things. So with that, it was part of the windows, a lot of uniform, like drawings of the uniform, and they had some drawings in there as well that I kind of put in just for them to say they've got some work up. Yeah. And then with another group, it was a local history society, so there were more personal stories there. They'd done a bit of research about their own families and things, so that was quite nice that it was a mixture of sort of general kind of war things, Warrington, and then personal things.
And that's the thing, is that we have several themes. You've said, I mean, you've been working on the industry and, like you were saying, propaganda, but you see the soldiers, you see...
Yeah, I just wanted to try and get a real idea of how the war would have affected the whole town, and it would have affected so many people in so many different ways. And yeah, I just wanted to kind of do something that represented all of the things that have come from the research.
And what would you say was the role and the impact of the war on Warrington?
They contributed a lot to it, like industry-wise, because there were big wire factories, there was cotton industry, there were a lot of hospitals in the town, so kind of everyone kind of mucked in, I guess. And yeah, a lot of the men from the town went to war. There's regiments that were just people from Warrington, so had a big impact.
Yeah. And about the propaganda, I mean, I don't know, it's not something that usually we would work on, or maybe for printing and this kind of things, but I don't know, why did you want to work on this in particular?
I think the images were so striking. There was an exhibition on at the museum when we were doing the workshop, so we went and had a look at the actual posters, and it was just kind of thinking about the ways that the propaganda was used to kind of tap into people's emotions, and there were some really strong images that I could use in the windows as well. There was some propaganda that was sort of specific to the town. There was some like meetings, like a lot of typographical kind of stuff, but posters for meetings at places like Bank Park, which is where the town hall is, at Parr Hall, and it was kind of nice to use a bit of text from those and kind of feed that into the work on the windows as well.
Do you think it's something we should talk more about?
I think so. Going into this project, I didn't know a lot about the First World War, and I studied history at college and things, but it was definitely something that was a bit of a gap in my knowledge, and I've learned so much just from looking at photographs, and obviously I've not learnt loads of facts and things. I've learnt some, but it's nice just to kind of look back on that and think about what it must have been like, and that's what I'm hoping that the work will make people want to do, kind of explore their own family history and how the war impacted that. And
what are your next project after that?
It's actually another war project. Yeah. It's in a town called Lee. I've been asked to do some workshops with, I think it's some young carers, I should know that, sorry, and making a piece of artwork for a little exhibition in September I think it's called Lee for All, just focused on Lee in the First World War.
Okay. Is it something you want, I mean, the fact of working on the war, would you like to keep on working on that, or do you, I don't know, you want to explore other subjects maybe?
Part of me would like to explore other subjects. There's quite a long list of things that I'd like to do, sort of personal work and things, but for now I'm enjoying kind of learning while I'm doing the work, and it's nice to work on something that's not necessarily something that I would always choose to work on. It's opened a lot of doors for me, which is great. So,
thank you very much.
That's okay, thank you.
Emma Brown is exhibiting her work at the Pyramid in Warrington until August the 29th. Next on Arts Alive, we meet with Chris Stevens, artist and curator of Reality, the brilliant new exhibition about British modern and contemporary painters at the Walker Art Gallery. Welcome back to Arts Alive. Since the 10th of July, the Walker Art Gallery displays Reality, an exhibition about British modern and contemporary painters curated by artist Chris Stevens. From Sickert to Francis Bacon, Laurie to Ken Curry, the artworks invite the viewers to reflect on the matter of reality, both through the style and the substance.
I'm Chris Stevens, and I have curated Reality, but essentially I'm a painter, and the exhibition is really a kind of indulgence because it's bringing together a whole group of paintings and artists who I have been aware of since being a student, and then subsequently come across as time goes on, which is a long time now. And the show itself is kind of about, it's about the strength of painting. It's about the strength of painting over the last 50 years, when we have been working against the backdrop of conceptualism and abstract painting, when there has been painting, that is. And it's a group of artists who have, through that time, carried on painting figuratively, representationally. For no other reasons, that's how they want to paint. And there's a kind of wonderful integrity to the show as a result. So you kind of like people, and most of the people are responding to their environment as well, which is really important to the show. It's important to me, and I guess really what it's about, the show is about my likes, and it's about what I wanted to do. The thesis was purely based on artists that I have enjoyed looking at over the years, since the 70s really, when I was a student. The show itself kind of has grown, and it started off as a small exhibition which I curated for the PM Gallery in London. I was asked to do that. And I didn't exactly pitch the idea. I was talking to the director of the Corcoran Gallery in Washington, D.C. over a couple of pints. And I just asked if he had a foyer he could put it up in, because, as a joke, if you like. And he said, yeah, no, this is great. This is a fantastic idea. And why don't we, as we at the time, his we's are usually you, but yeah, why don't we put together an enormous British painting show, a definitive one of representation of painting, that is. And I said, yeah, but knowing Paul Greenhalgh, I kind of also knew that I might be doing lots of work with no end result, as it happens. I mean, that's what happens. So I thought, right, I'm going to do it, because I love it, because I can actually have this sort of virtual exhibition and just like make your own collection online, which is what I did. And I sort of started off with paintings I didn't think would ever be in the exhibition by Lucian Freud and Francis Bacon and David Hockney, because they were my sort of heroes when I was a student. And I thought, I'll start with that, because, you know, if I'm in the show, I'll be showing with these boys, and that's kind of brilliant. And what a great way to have, an exhibition with the big boys. So I did that, and then I started, right now, then it was kind of, who do I put in now? And I started to choose artists who I've exhibited with in different exhibitions throughout the years, artists that I admire, artists that I find exciting, and some people I know, some people I don't know. So it was a kind of like just trying to put together this exhibition, which made some sort of sense, which was, and was British as well. I mean, that was because I needed a parameter, because I wasn't going to get Velasquez in there. And you could go on and on, Rembrandt's not in it. Well, he's not British, I know. It's kind of like I had to have a parameter, and it was about British painting. And the result was, after the Corcoran exhibition fell through for financial reasons, as much as anything, Paul Greenhalgh moved to the Sainsbury Centre, said, come and pitch it to the Sainsbury Centre, and I did it. And they said yes. And I thought, wow, what do we do? Where do we go from here? Because, I mean, as I say, I'm not actually a curator, and I didn't know how these things work. So and I said, do you realise I don't actually have access to all these paintings? Some are in the Tate and all that. But of course, being a big gallery, they could get them, and they did. And I was amazed that my first sort of selection started to come together, with very few exceptions. Things obviously changed over a period of time, but we all really started to sort of meet up and become something which was looking rather special. And I still actually never believed it was going to happen right until the end. I mean, it was kind of like you just don't see this thing being pulled off. But it was. And so it went to the Sainsbury Centre. And then the Walker became involved, and it is now here. And I have to say, it is fantastic here. It looks a different show. I mean, apart from the paintings being the same, of course, although we've got new Freud and we've got new Hockney. But the space itself is just really showing off the gallery, the exhibition in a fantastic new way. And it's also in a gallery which I have known since I was a student and loved since I was a student, because it's about painting. It's got the John Moores, it's got a great collection. I mean, there's people in the show who are in their collections, so it's a fantastic gallery.
I was wondering, because I haven't seen the Norwich exhibition, but is it really different from it? I mean, what have you added to it?
I think it's the one or two, because of the way these exhibitions work. There was the Jenny Savile's not in it anymore, which is a shame. But again, that was something we knew was going to happen. The Lucian Freud is now a different Lucian Freud because that came from London Tate, and they didn't want it to travel. Well, I think it's competition down the road, you know. And the Hockney as well has changed. But the good thing is that the Hockney that we now have in the show is one, not the exact one, but one from the period that I really like and initially put in when I first put it together from about 1963. So that's a plus. And the Lucian Freud we've got is absolutely gorgeous. It's smaller, but it's gorgeous. And so that's a big plus. There's no harm done there. Otherwise, it's much the same exhibition. It looks different because the gallery has height and it has light, and it's also the way it's configured here. You kind of get these little surprises as you go around the different screens and stuff. And there's a Lowry. Oh, wow, you know, it's really, really good. In the Sainsbury Centre, it was a kind of no division, and it was just like big three galleries all with work around the walls. So it had a much different feel to it. Good, it was good, but it was in a modern building, obviously, you know, and they have lower ceilings. And Norma Foster would have loved it, I'm sure. I don't really want to see it or not, but I mean, it's like, I mean, it worked in a different sort of way, and it was fantastic there. But it's kind of like I love it here, I have to say. The Sicker in this show is there add-on's the wrong word. It was like initially it was going to be a contemporary painting show, and at the time when I started, Lucian Freud was alive. The only deceased member of it was Francis Bacon. But then I needed him in there because he was just such a hero of mine when I was a student. And also the Sainsbury's Gallery on 14 of them. And I thought, hey, they were going to get that one anyway. Ironically, that's not arriving to the end of August because it's been in the show in St. Petersburg. But anyway, that's another story. But the Sicker was there, he died in 1942. The painting's from 1917. But he was such an important painter to all of us. Well, to me, certainly, and I know to many of the other artists in the show. Because for me, he made me realise what painting can do. Because at the time in the 70s, painting was looked down upon, it was frowned upon, certainly where I was training. You kind of painted against the tide. But I realised by looking at Sicker that anything can happen in painting. You could paint about whatever you want. You could paint about ordinary, everyday life. And it doesn't have to be pretty. And that excited me. And it was that made me sort of just think, what a great start to the exhibition. It's not meant to be as like part of the whole thing. It's kind of like, he's become that, but it's kind of like, it's just this is the guy that made it all possible. One of the important things, and I mean, somebody like Ray Richardson sort of kind of like he sounded a bit bemused when that was put to him. You know, my sort of feel about the whole thing was, well, and it's a fact, that painting was out of fashion. Painting was not part of the mainstream. Conceptual art has been big for a long time, and it's only now that it's really back in mainstream again, which is marvellous. But Ray Richardson was saying, you know, well, I didn't know it had been out of fashion, you know, I've just been painting. And, you know, also ironically, we've all been exhibiting during that time. You know, we've all been having shows, we've all been in sort of national shows and things, you know, where there are painting shows. So it's been there, it's just not been at the forefront of artistic practice.
Well, yeah, I was thinking of the photograph as well, because I'm seeing this one, I mean, the Philip Harris, there are a couple around, and the level of details, it really looks like photography.
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, it's like pre-Raphaelite type precision. And then you'll get a Cecily Brown, of course, which almost looks like an abstract painting. And it kind of is abstract as well. And I think that, for me, also, painting has to have all those qualities. A good painting has to have abstract qualities. You know, I like the message, if you like. I like to see a narrative. I enjoy narrative. I enjoy standing in front of a painting and even creating my own narrative from it. And we all have our memories as well. Jock McFadden's painting of the warehouse, this tumbling down warehouse. I know why he's done it, but when I looked at that for the first time in his studio, it was kind of, I know this building. I actually did know that building, but it's like, you know, this is where I've had studios for years in Hackney. This is also where the Olympics got awarded to London, and all these buildings got torn down. You know, we didn't hear about that over here. You know, in China or whatever, it's kind of like, oh dear, they're throwing everybody out to have the Olympic Games. Over here, all the artists got thrown out the studios, and it's kind of, and it was part of that. So for me, there's a personal thing there going on. I don't think it's part of his narrative, but it's part of what it means to me. And that's what I enjoy. With Philip Harris, of course, a different thing going on there. That's kind of very enigmatic. But what is that woman doing? And what are they looking at? And it's kind of, and they're obviously looking at her, except the other one looking at the dog. So you kind of like some story, and you kind of think, what is the story about? And in fact, do we need to know? You know, do we need Philip Harris to explain it to us? And I don't think he would anyway. Yeah, it's kind of like, so it's about that storytelling too. Funny thing is though, you kind of like, when the show went, the first title for the show was going to be called The Harsh Reality. And that wasn't my title. And I sort of, when I went to this meeting and they said, we want to call it The Harsh Reality, and I said, well, why? And they said, well, it's very hard hitting, and I couldn't get it. I didn't understand what they meant by that, because the way I think and the way I make paintings and my political views and that, I just see as being ordinary day life. And I didn't kind of realise that other people might perceive things in a different sort of way. And Clive Head, of course, it looks a little bit more like The Coffee Morning or whatever, but then it's kind of a bit disturbing because he's chopped everything up. So we get thrown a bit. Going back to the Jock McFadden, you know, that was the environment that I was working in. Not where I was living, but it was where I was working in. And kind of, it was the backdrop to my paintings too. And I mean, at the time he was including figures. There's another Jock McFadden in the show, which has got a sort of almost sort of Dix-esque, is that a word? I've just made it up, isn't it? Sort of figure with a machine gun in the street. And it was a kind of, that's an earlier painting from the 80s, and the one here is from a few years ago. But he's taken the figures out. So he's actually just looking at the fabric of the society, but the basic fabric of the background that these figures used to exist in. The political aspect, I think, is for me very important. I think John Keane deals with big political issues, you know, and that's what he is. He's what he's become known as. You know, he was the war artist of the first Iraqi war, and made some fantastic work from that. And I really love it when a painting is saying something big. But I don't think it has to be big political issues, because small things, I mean, we've just had a budget in this country which is not helping out the people, the worse off. It's helping out people who have, and not helping those that haven't. And that's democracy. That is political. But also, it's kind of like the knock-on from that is going to be ordinary stuff. It's about people trying to survive within our society. And then within that, different things happen. Going and have a cup of tea is absolutely part of the stuff of life.
That's all this week on Art Alive. See you next time.